The 2023 rookies officially have ended their rookie seasons, with some of them meeting expectations and some of them outperforming their expectations. So today, let's redraft the 2023 first round. So let us do our 2023 NFL redraft. Lots of missed opportunities in this year's draft. I think that is probably the best way to describe the 2023 draft, especially from the #1 pick, the Carolina Panthers. Obviously, Bryce Young was the initial pick here, but let's not beat around the bush here. CJ Stroud had a incredible, historic offensive rookie of the year season. He's maybe the best rookie quarterback we've ever seen. I don't think Justin Herbert's up there, but CJ Stroud, #1. Carolina gets their guy. I still do think that with CJ Stroud going to Carolina, that team still has its own problems. I don't think they're a playoff team with CJ Stroud all of a sudden, but CJ is better than Bryce Young, so CJ Stroud's the pick. All right, Houston at #2. They don't get Bryce Young in this situation. I don't see them skipping out on a quarterback, though. So who is the best quarterback in this draft not named CJ Stroud? I'd vouch to say Anthony Richardson, but he just didn't play a lot of games this year. He doesn't fit Houston very much, but also CJ Stroud is the guy for 1 year, so it's kind of hard to say. Do they go Will Anderson Jr.? I mean, maybe it's tough to say. They could even go Jalen Carter. Devon Witherspoon was a stud. Christian Gonzalez. I don't see a world where they go back to Davis Mills, though. Bryce Young, I'm sorry, but it's going to be Anthony Richardson here. Arizona at 3. They have their quarterback. They really could use a pass rusher like Will Anderson Jr. Paris Johnson Jr. was one of their picks this year. I think they traded back for him, so I don't know if he's going to be the pick this early in this draft. You could go Puka Nacua. I mean, historic rookie season. It's hard to say that Puka Nacua isn't deserving of the 3rd overall pick. But in this situation, with what they need on the defensive line, I'm actually going to go with Will Anderson Jr. here for the Arizona Cardinals. Again, Puka Nacua, I don't disagree. Indianapolis needs a quarterback. I think this is a good spot for Bryce Young. Offensive line played better. You have Michael Pittman Jr., Jonathan Taylor played this year with a decent defense. This is the exact spot for Bryce Young to go. Again, listen, I made a video recently calling Bryce Young a bust. A lot of people mistook what I said. I said he was a bust for his rookie season, not for his whole career. Kind of defending myself here. Bryce Young is going to the Indianapolis Colts. I said last year that Anthony Richardson was the perfect fit for Indianapolis because what Shane Steichen does. You put Bryce Young in that system, that could really help him out. Seattle at 5. Seattle needs a lot of things. Secondary, defensive line. You could go either way. I'm cool with Devon Witherspoon staying at that #5 pick, but I'm also cool with Jalen Carter. Long term, I think Devon Witherspoon's potential as a top tier corner might be a little bit more valuable than a top tier defensive interior player. A little indifferent here. I think you're good either way. They need both these players. You don't need receivers, so Puka Nacua is not on the table here. Devon Witherspoon or Jalen Carter. I've been saying that Devon Witherspoon is the better player this year, but that's just because he's been playing more snaps than Jalen Carter. It's hard to really say that either one of these guys has a capped potential. Their potential is through the roof. I'm going to go with what I saw from Devon Witherspoon this year in their system. I don't think it would be fair for me not to go with Devon Witherspoon, so we're going to go with Devon Witherspoon. My pick for Defensive Player of the Year, by the way. Detroit at 6. Crazy to think that Detroit has the 6th overall pick with the year they just had. Obviously, I don't think it's their pick, but Jalen Carter. Interesting. Christian Gonzalez, interesting. Ryan Branch was their pick in the 2nd round. He has been fantastic for them. He could be their pick at 18 for all I know, depending on how the draft board goes here. I go with Jalen Carter because Christian Gonzalez obviously had the injury, but looked fantastic before the injury. Defensive interior is such a big need for the Detroit Lions, especially with the pass rush, so I'm going to go with Jalen Carter. Now, before I get to my 7th pick in this draft, I want to give a special shout out to the sponsor of today's video, Underdog Fantasy. Underdog Fantasy is the easiest and fastest growing fantasy sports app available. My favorite thing about Underdog Fantasy is their pick'em games. Simply pick higher or lower for your favorite player's stats, and you'll have a chance to win up to 20 times your money in a single night. Pick between 2 to 5 players in a pick'em entry, and if you get them right, you'll be able to earn some serious cash. I personally love playing these pick'em games on game day to add another level of excitement for my day. And you can too if you sign up today using the link in the description below. Make sure to use promo code METROSPORTS, and you can get your first deposit doubled up to $100, as well as an instant pick'em special. Underdog Fantasy is available to you in many different states. Check the screen right now to see if your state is eligible. And again, make sure to download Underdog Fantasy using promo code METROSPORTS. And I want to give a special thank you to Underdog Fantasy for sponsoring today's video. Las Vegas at 7. The original pick was Tyree Wilson. Tyree Wilson will not be my pick. In fact, I don't know when Tyree's going to get drafted. He played decent at the back end of the year, but definitely not the guy here. Christian Gonzalez is looking pretty juicy. Las Vegas could use a Puka Nacua. I'm not ignoring Puka Nacua. I'm just thinking what teams would value in this situation. I don't know if Vegas needs a Puka Nacua. Their receiving core is not bad. Christian Gonzalez here would fix a major problem for the Las Vegas Raiders, even though their secondary isn't particularly bad per se, but Christian Gonzalez is cornerback one level material. I think they could really use that, so it's tough to say what else I would think here for this spot. Pass rusher's interesting. If Will Anderson was here, I'd go Will Anderson. He's not here. Terry Wilson is the only really top tier pass rusher. Not a lot of great pass rushers early on. Will Anderson obviously is like the one great one, but edge rusher wise, not a ton of them. We're to go with Christian Gonzalez and not overthink this one. Atlanta at pick 8. Originally it was Bijan Robinson. I'm tempted to just go back to Bijan. They need a pass rusher. There isn't one really on the board. Offensive line was good this year. Puka Nacua, again, I feel bad that Puka's fallen out of the top 7, but I haven't found a spot for him yet. This is definitely not a spot. Well, it could be a spot. I think Bijan has generational talent written all over him, though. So I'm going with Bijan. I'm sticking with the roots here. I think that he was a good pick for the Atlanta Falcons. I don't think they regret that pick at all. You could say Puka Nacua, but wait, one more pick. Bijan. All right, Chicago, this is pretty obvious. You're going to go Puka Nacua here. People are going to say, like, go draft a quarterback. No, Puka Nacua. I'm going to have to go down. Pick 164 on their board here. This is obviously for last year's draft. Puka Nacua played fantastic this year. So, yes, Mr. BYU, Mr. Puka Nacua is a Chicago Bear. That would be cool. All right, now we are with the Philadelphia Eagles. They don't need a quarterback. They don't need an edge rusher. They don't really need receiver. Could you go offensive line to train behind Lane Johnson? You could. Is it a huge need? Not necessarily. Joey Porter Jr. is interesting here. Deontay Banks is also interesting. I'm looking more for defense. There wasn't really a great linebacker that came out this draft. Jack Campbell, Drew Sanders. So we're going to go here with Joey Porter Jr. to add a younger prospect to an older secondary. Tennessee at pick 11. Peter Skoronski played out well for them. I don't think they're mad with that pick at all. You could make the argument that Paris Johnson Jr. was the better player than him this year, but I'm not really in the mood to switch that up right now. I think I'm just going to stick with Peter Skoronski because he has that versatility for them moving forward, whereas Paris Johnson will be a tackle for his entire career. Peter, you're back to the Tennessee Titans. Houston, back up with pick 12 here. They would trade this pick in this scenario last year for Will Anderson. This year, that's not going to be the case. I'm not doing any trades. So for this one's interesting. You took Anthony Richardson. Do you go with Tyree Wilson to develop him? Maybe. When there's a lot of really good players on the board still, I don't think you do so. In this hypothetical scenario, Tank Dell's not on their roster, so they could use a quarterback. Let's not forget that here. We obviously do know Nico Collins would break out. Dalton Schultz would be a good player for them. Devin Singletary was fine. Of all the receivers in this year's draft, obviously Puka Nacua was number 1. Of all the first-round caliber guys, Jackson Smith and Jigba had good moments. Jordan Addison had good moments. I think Zay Flowers is interesting. Similar build to Tank Dell. I would say that Tank Dell's future with Houston is arguably just as bright as Zay Flowers is in Baltimore, if not more. So Zay Flowers would be the pick here. I don't disagree if you say, why not just Tank Dell? I don't disagree with that. We're going to go with Zay Flowers for what his upside can be moving forward. Green Bay at pick number 13. The original pick was Lucas Van Ness. In this situation, I think Lucas Van Ness had a decent year, but Tyree Wilson probably had a better year overall. Green Bay not really in the mood for a quarterback here. Will Levis is still on the board. Jackson Smith and Jigba, I think you're pretty fine with your receiving core. You could go Paris Johnson Jr. to add an offensive tackle for your team. Your defense could really use some work here. There's Brian Branch, Deontay Banks is still available. Pretty fun stuff here. Do you go tight end? Go Sam Laporta? I'm trying to think. Green Bay, did they get good tight end play this year? Oh, they took 2 tight ends in the draft. I'm tripping. They didn't play great. I'll say that. Sam Laporta is better. Do you go Sam? I'm asking you guys. Tell me. Kincaid is a beast too. Do you take Sam Laporta over Tyree Wilson, Lucas Van Ness, or a corner? That's tough. I'm gonna do Sam Laporta here because hypothetically, without their 2 drafted For rookie tight ends, I don't know who their starter would be. Sam Laporta is the best tight end of this year's draft. He was a fantastic prospect. Sam Laporta is going to be a Green Bay Packer. Lions fans are not going to like that. I am sorry, Lions fans. I'm going to just cut in here real quick. I will be live on Super Bowl Sunday at 4:30 Central Time. If you guys want more information, check out my community tab. You guys can see all the information you guys need to know there. I'll be doing a lot of fun things, so make sure you guys come around. New England, knowing what we know, knowing that Mac Jones was horrible this year, do you take Will Levis? Do you take what Will Levis did this year? I think you do. Will Levis has a lot of talent. Tennessee fans are feeling pretty confident with him. I feel like people don't like him because of his aura and who he is. He had a good rookie season, all things considered. So if he stays healthy in the New England Patriots system, why not? If there's a guy out there who can maybe train Will Levis to be the next guy, Belichick. I know he's fired now, but in this scenario, he's still on the team, so you got to think about it. We're going to go Will Levis here. New England gets their future quarterback. New York Jets, the original pick here was Will McDonald. That was a colossal fail. Long term, I'm not sure if that'll be a fail, but for this most recent year, it was. A lot of really good players. They need offensive line badly. Paris Johnson Jr. still available. Steve Avila, DeJuan Jones could be the pick here, but they're not better than Paris Johnson Jr. was his rookie year. So Paris Johnson Jr. By the way, I'm doing this off the domesy right here, so if I'm missing somebody, let me know. I feel like I did a good job. I have a little list here. If I look down, there's a list of names to make sure I throw in this draft because they are worthy of first-round picks. Washington at pick 16 here. Offensive line was a huge problem for them this year. Receivers, not a big problem. Edge rusher, hypothetically, Montez Sweat, Chase Young are still on the Commanders. So, do you go defensive line? Knowing what I know, probably not. It is a need this upcoming draft, but they won't address that with their second overall pick unless Drake May tears his ACL or something. Just throwing that out there. Knock on wood. I think offensive line. Darnell Wright is still here. Steve Avila is still on the board. DeJuan Jones. I feel like I'm missing a name here. Anton Harrison probably won't go first round, maybe late first. This is, to me, Darnell Wright territory. He had a good year. All things considered, he had a really good year. Was he better than Jalen Carter? No. Should he have been picked over Jalen Carter? Probably not. I understand long term, though, they need to fix their offensive line. The debate between Broderick Jones and Darnell Wright is really close. Broderick Jones is really good himself. Really did nice for Pittsburgh this year. One of their better offensive linemen. I'm still going to go with Darnell Wright because I think he has that versatility to play guard and tackle. I think at Washington, he might actually be a better guard. Don't quote me on that, though. So Pittsburgh at pick 17, a lot of things you can go down here. Byron Young is on the board here. Kobe Turner could be a pick here. Don't really need an edge. Unfortunately, Terry Wilson, Nolan Smith, Miles Murphy, Will McDonald, and Lucas Van Ness all went in the first round of this draft, or in actuality went in the first round. I don't know if they go first round. I think Tyree will go first round. I'm a Raiders fan, so maybe I'm just hating on him at this point. Pittsburgh needs corners and offensive tackle. I think Broderick Jones might be the pick again here. I think they made the right pick. I mean, could you go Kalijah Cansey? Sure. Could you go Byron Young? Sure. But all things considered, Broderick Jones, for what he did his rookie year, is a good fit for them. So we're going to go Broderick Jones here. Detroit at pick 18. Jahmyr Gibbs. I haven't said his name yet. Not a lot of teams need running backs. Does Jahmyr Gibbs go here to Detroit? You took Jalen Carter to add your defensive line earlier. Aiden Hutchinson, Jalen Carter. Do you double down and grab Tyree Wilson to really fix your defensive line? You could. You could also go in there, get Brian Branch. Deonte Banks is still available. Looking at the other corners on this list, none of them really stand out over these guys. I think of these guys, Deonte Banks might be the pick here. I feel bad because Jahmyr Gibbs probably should be a Detroit Lion still, but I don't know. Deonte Banks is a hard one to replace. I know that Jahmyr Gibbs was a stud this year, but we're going to go Deonte Banks here. Okay, Tampa Bay at pick 19. They probably won't go running back. Again, I think once my mind gets attached to a player, I'm like, I got to find a landing spot for them. Jahmyr Gibbs should go in this first round. It's just positional value. It's not that Jahmyr Gibbs is not worthy of a first round pick. It's just what team really needs a running back. Tampa Bay has Rachaad White. They're pretty good. You look at Seattle, they have their guy. Chargers could be interesting. Austin Eckler's more of a passing guy. He could be the pick there. We'll get to that point when we get there. Tampa Bay, is this a spot for Tyree Wilson? They originally took Kalijah Cansey, and I think they're pretty happy with that. The offensive line is interesting. You could go offensive lineman. I don't really know if there's anyone who I would take off the board here. Steve Avila is interesting. Osiris Torrance, John Michael Schmitz could go in that direction. I wouldn't be mad about that. With what's on the board here, though, with the potential of what Tyree Wilson can be, they need a good pass rusher moving forward. They don't really have that set in stone guy right now. So let's go Tyree Wilson here. He kind of fell big time in this draft, but that's just because he just didn't have a really impressive rookie season until later in the season. And then when he did show up, he had a couple off games. Potential's through the roof, though. So I think that Tampa Bay would be thrilled to get Tyree Wilson in this scenario. Seattle at pick 20. They originally took Jackson Smith and Jigba. Could they go back to that? Yes, but I think if they knew what they had problems-wise, I don't think they would do that. Brian Branch makes a ton of sense, but so does some of these defensive linemen here. Tuli Pelotu, Toby Turner, Byron Young. Man, there's some depth to this defensive line class. Damn, this is tough. This is tough. Of all the picks I've had thus far, I think this one might be the hardest one. Brian Branch would fix a huge need for them, but their run defense was horrible. I don't know if Keanu Benton, is he worth a first? Pick 20 over some of the guys I'm naming? Probably not. Kobe Turner, Byron Young. Am I reaching? I don't think I'm reaching, dude. I'm gonna go Byron Young. He had a good rookie year. Really good rookie season for the LA Rams. Could really bring something that Seattle needs in the defensive interior. I'm gonna go Byron Young there. Shout out to Byron Young, man. LA Chargers, I mean, where do you begin? Where do you begin? Receiving core, you went Quentin Johnson. That was a horrible pick. You have big major needs, a lot on your defense. Joey Bosa will probably not be on this team next year. To everyone who's going to roast me in the comments and saying that it's not this hard, I want you guys to actually put yourself in the GM shoes and actually think about, okay, what would the Chargers do knowing what you know? It's kind of harder than you'd think. Like, Jackson Smith and Jigba is a great player, but does he fit the Chargers? Does he fit what happened this year? No. They need defensive players. Their defense was horrible. So is the receiving core, but that was just mainly due to injuries. The offensive line could use some help. I think you got to go defense here. They couldn't really use an interior pass rusher. Do you go Tuli? Do you go Keanu Benton? Brian Brsay had a good rookie year. Kalijah Kancey had a good rookie year. Do you go tight end? Ooh, that throws a wrench into things. Dalton Kincaid. Definitely worthy of a first-round pick. Ooh, this is tough. This is tough. They don't really have... Gerald Everett's Gerald Everett. He's nothing special. Dalton Kincaid, I just popped into my head. He might be the pick here. Justin Herbert, Ian Allen, Mike Williams, Austin Eckler. Are you at Dalton Kincaid? I mean, let's take it. Dalton Kincaid, I like that pick there. Tight ends, I'm done with the tight end position. Michael Mayer, love him. Not going to go in the first round for me. Baltimore, pick number 22. Need receivers. Unfortunately, they don't get their guy in Zay Flowers. Yet knowing what we know, they're looking pretty good on the defensive side of things. Receiving was a big problem for them. Zay Flowers was nice. Could you go with a guy like Jordan Addison, who would probably be a better fit than a Jackson Smith and Jigba? Maybe. You look at the receivers, could you go Tank Dell? Tank Dell is nice. When I take Tank Dell in this situation over Jordan Addison for the Baltimore Ravens, no, I'm gonna go Tank Dell. We're gonna go Tank Dell here. And Minnesota will stick with their guy. Oh, Nathaniel Dell? That's his name. I'm looking for his name, Nathaniel Dell. We'll go Nathaniel Dell for the Baltimore Ravens. Hopefully that's the right guy. That's the right guy. That's the same guy. Minnesota pick 23, originally Jordan Addison. I don't think they would move off of that idea. Their defense improved last year. Obviously, the quarterback injuries suck. I don't know. I think long-term, getting a guy like that is nice. Now, Jahmyr Gibbs is interesting here. Again, Jahmyr Gibbs is interesting. He probably could have went to Baltimore. He probably could have. Minnesota with a fantastic running back like Jahmyr Gibbs. We're going to go Jahmyr Gibbs here. He probably should have went earlier. Looking back on it, Jahmyr Gibbs is solid this year, but I didn't really find a spot for him. With Jahmyr Gibbs to Minnesota, they get a dynamic running back. Maybe Kirk Cousins stays healthy with that. Jacksonville, offensive line problems were killer for them. Osiris Torrance, John Michael Schmitz. I think Steve Avila. One of these three guys will probably be the pick here. Offensive tackle, you could go DeJuan Jones. He was really good early on before he got some injuries. Does he make it to the first round? Maybe. Of the three here, it's tough to say who really had the best year. They're really good. Osiris Torrance really picked up in the back end of the year. John Michael Schmitz was great throughout most of the season. Can play center and guard. I believe Steve Avila can as well. Jacksonville can really use versatility along the offensive line. I wonder if any of these guys can move out to tackle. Probably not. Probably not. Usually when you stay on the inside, you stay on the inside. Jacksonville, they were bad this year. I'm trying to think of like what guy could be the difference maker for them. I don't know if Jackson Smith and Jigba's that guy. Defense, is Van Ness, corner. Corner could use some help, but I don't know. None of these guys are really big out to me. Maybe Julius Brents. He had a good year, I believe, for the Colts. Billy Ringo was decent this year. Brian Branch, now that could be interesting. He plays more of that safety block corner spot that Jacksonville could really use. Jacksonville's secondary wasn't that great this year. Offensive line, secondary, edge rusher. I like what I saw from Trayvon Walker. I think he can take that next step going for the future, but he had, I think, about almost 10 sacks this year. Brian Branch, I think, will be the pick here. I'm trying to find reasons to not pick him over some of these other guys. I'll go Brian Branch here to the Jacksonville Jaguars. I want to say, before I ever did YouTube, that I actually mocked Brian Branch to Jacksonville, so a bit of a full circle moment here. Giants, a lot of needs, a lot of problems. It's either going to be receiver or offensive line. Jackson Smith-Njigba just doesn't move me as a receiver one like this team needs. Offensive line, especially on the interior, was horrible. John Michael Schmitz was nice for them this year. I'm cool with any of these three. I think Giants fans are going to want to say one of these two guys, even Josh Downs or Rashee Rice or Jaden Reed and Kayshon Boutte, not really, but it's got to be interior offensive line. It was horrible for them this year. Double down. This was a 2-round. I'd probably double down here, but this is just a 1-round. I'm tempted to go O'Cyrus Torrence, but I'm just going to stick with John Michael Schmitz, knowing what I know for what he fit within that system. Long term, he's going to be a very good center for them. I don't think Giants fans will be mad at that at all. Dallas, pick number 26. I've been very vocal in saying that Dallas should have went with wide receiver in this past draft. Unfortunately, it didn't fall the way for them in the boards. With the way the draft fell to me now, would you take Jackson Smith-Njigba? Yes. I think you pair him up with CeeDee Lamb. Kind of similar players. Obviously, CeeDee is way more athletic, but Addison is interesting. He's more of that outside receiver that could complement CeeDee more. Quentin, probably not. Josh Downs, a little too small. Cedric Tillman. Rashee Rice has really turned up as of late. He'd be a nice fit next to Dallas. Do you go linebacker here and get Jack Campbell? You could. You definitely could. They got DeMarvin Overshown. He's going to come back from injury next year. Could you go Tuli Pelotu? Maybe defensive. Ooh, hold on. Who'd you go Tuli here? Maybe even go Kobe Turner. Interesting. I'm trying to think like what Dallas could have gotten last year, because last year their draft was abysmal. Mozzie Smith was their first pick. I don't know if Mozzie Smith would be drafted in a 2-round draft. That's how bad he was his rookie year. I may be exaggerating, but this is tough. Interior offensive line isn't a big need for Dallas. I think Tyler Biadasz holds the position pretty well. I think they should look to address that this offseason though, but not necessarily in this draft. Obviously, it's not Mozzie Smith. You're not going for him. Do you go Kalijah Kancey? He's a really good interior pass rusher, but they need a run stuffer more than anything. I don't know if any of these guys really move me that much. Keanu Benson is interesting. Big dude. But receivers, Rashee Rice is just calling my name. I might get some hate for that one because he's really turned up as of late. But I'm thinking, he doesn't have the size though. DD's big, but Brandon Cooks is short. You probably want to go size if you're going to go with wide receiver. Quentin Johnson has the size, but none of the skills that you'd want. No offense. Jackson Smith-Njigba's a slot guy for the most part, but can play on the outside. But he would be fun next to CeeDee Lamb, but I don't really know if that moves me offensively speaking. Like, I don't know if he has the variety in his route running to be that guy. Running back was a problem for them this year, but I don't know if, like, Devon Achane's interesting, but running back is such a tough spot to pick here. Offensive line was fine for Dallas. Could you go edge rusher? Maybe. Don't really think it's that big of a need. I think we're going to go somewhere on the defensive line here. It's tough to say, like, who would be the best person here for Dallas. I'm going to go with Tui Pelotu as abilities to go on the outside, on the inside. Got 8 sacks this year. I wouldn't say he's the best run stuffer on the board here, but you pair him up next to Micah, Marcus, Osa, Odigizua, that can be nasty. So we're gonna go with Tui Pelotu. I like that pick for Dallas. I don't know if I love it. It's hard because you really want like a run stuffer. They don't really have that. You could have went Jack Campbell for Dallas. That actually probably should have been the pick. That probably should have been the pick. Can I go back? Can I go? I already turned the card in? I already turned the card in. That's not the pick. All right. My bad. Tui Pelotu does fix a huge problem for Dallas. Probably should have went Jack Campbell. Buffalo at pick 27. You need wide receivers. Stephon Diggs, Gabe Davis. You need more of that. You could go back to just getting O'Cyrus Torrence or Steve Avila. You could, hypothetically. Maybe you go with Brian Branch. Oh, I know he already got taken. Defensive interior. I know that people are saying that's a need this year. It is. I don't know if it's a need that desperately. I look at Jackson Smith-Njigba. I think that he could provide something that they don't really have currently on their team. Stephon Diggs can primarily play on the outside, but can play a little bit on the inside as well. Smith-Njigba could really be that versatile piece they need on the offense. You could even go back to tight end, go Michael Mayer here. Unfortunately, no Dalton Kincaid, but I'm kind of stuck between Jordan Addison and Jackson Smith and Jigba. Jackson really did not get the usage in Seattle that I think he probably would have wanted. It's tough to really say that I have the answer right now. I'm going to go with Jackson Smith and Jigba just for his versatility, which now brings me to Cincinnati. They need tight ends. Michael Mayer being available is interesting. You could even go offensive line here. Osiris Torrance, Steve Avila still being available is a shame, in my opinion. Tight end's a big need. I don't know if Michael Mayer makes it the first round, though. Could go defensive line. I don't disagree. Kobe Turner still being available. Lucas Van Ness still being available. Haven't found a spot for him. I'm going to go with Steve Avila here. Versatility. Him and Osiris Torrance are pretty interchangeable. I just think right now I'll probably go Steve Avila. New Orleans with pick 29. I don't know how the hell they got this pick. If y'all know, let me know in the comments. Brian Brisset was the original pick here. Do you go back to defensive line? Yes. Kalijah Cansey might be a bit of a better prospect than Brian Brisset. Kobe Turner still intrigues me if I can find him. Yeah, Kobe Turner still intrigues me, but I still think Kalijah Cansey has a higher upside right now. So Kalijah Cansey could be that Brian Brisset replacement, maybe with a little bit more potential. I still think Brian Brisset's potential is through the roof. Next up, Philadelphia, pick number 30. Originally went with Joey Porter Jr. for their first pick. Lots of really interesting options here for them. Do they go back to Nolan Smith? I don't know. They can go offensive tackle here and get DeJuan Jones. Future prospect for them to develop behind Lane Johnson and some of those other tackles they have. So DeJuan Jones, I think that might be the pick here. I don't really know if there's anybody right now who I would say I would take over him. Oh, linebacker. I'm not making this mistake twice. Jack Campbell, you are a Philadelphia Eagle. Their linebackers core was horrible this year. Drew Sanders, Jack Campbell, Trenton Simpson. I didn't hear Trenton Simpson's name a whole lot this year. Not really seeing anybody right now who I would take over them. Jack Campbell, you are a Philadelphia Eagle. That would fix a major need. Not necessarily the best in coverage. That still concerns me for him long term, but in terms of what he can be this year. Kansas City pick 31, receiver. They need it badly. Jordan Addison is still on the board here. I don't think you think twice about it. That's a pretty easy pick. We'll finish off with pick 32. I believe this is actually a second round pick, but we're just going to use it here. For the Pittsburgh Steelers, originally I believe the pick was Keanu Benton. Don't quote me on that. Edge rusher, Lucas Van Ness still being available is interesting. Interior offensive line intrigues me a little bit. Osiris Torrance being undrafted for my first round mock drafts feels a little criminal. Rashee Rice, no, he probably wouldn't be a fit here for Pittsburgh. Linebacker, Drew Sanders. Does he fit a need for them? I don't know. I think they really need like a downfield big run stuffer. I don't know if Drew Sanders can be that, but he can also play decent in coverage. You took Broderick Jones earlier. DeJuan Jones is still here. Big dude. He might be the pick here. Double down. Why not? Broderick Jones from Georgia, DeJuan Jones from Ohio State. You double down on the Jones. Your 2 tackle spots for your future secured. That intrigues me a ton. Should they do that? Probably not. Cornerback. Nobody really here who's really screamed my name. Tyreek Stevenson, interesting. Juju Brent's interesting too. Daniel Forbes should not have been a first round pick. I had him as a day 2, maybe 3rd round pick. I did not have a big first round grade on him. I'm torn between DeJuan Jones and actually I'm not really torn between anything. I think I kind of talked myself into this pick here. Could you go quarterback? Nah, because none of these guys really did anything. Like Aiden O'Connell, maybe. I'm not going to spend a pick on him. DeJuan Jones will be my last pick. We're going to double down Pittsburgh. You're going to have 2 offensive tackles of the future to really just bolster your offensive line. And that's it. That's the first round. I wish I could show you guys the picks. Yeah, so that is the redraft of the 2023 draft. If you guys did enjoy, hit the like and subscribe button. Maybe we'll do a second one of these with a bit more thought behind it, a little bit more, less on the spot, more actual thoughtful thinking. If you guys did enjoy, hit the like and subscribe button. But I love you guys. Peace.